someone, I guess. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. I am Michelle Blank, and I'm Sisterhood President, and I have the honor tonight to tell you about our going-ons here. Tomorrow, Saturday, February 8th, starting at 4 p.m., support CNT's Mensch Club by joining them for their annual Super Bowl. Peruse the selection of homemade soups, chilies, and stews. Purchase your favorites and help support Mensch Club's future events and initiatives. CNT Film Havurah will be meeting on Tuesday, February 11 to watch Crossing Delancey, one of my favorite movies. It's a great movie, here in our social hall. Doors open at 5:30 p.m., with the movie beginning at 6 p.m. Calling all CNT young adults 20 to 40-ish. Next Gen Trivia Night at Slater's 50/50 returns on Wednesday, February 12th. Schmoozing starts at 6:45 p.m., with trivia beginning at 7 p.m. We'll save you a seat, so join our team. Sisterhood's Tu B'Shvat celebration will take place on Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. in our social hall. Join the sisters for an evening of fun, schmoozing, and a delicious vegetarian meal in celebration of the New Year of the Trees. Next Gen will also be holding a paint and sip Havdalah for our young adults, 21 to 40-ish, in the social hall on Saturday, February 22nd, starting at 7 p.m. Reserve your spot for just $12. Food, drink, and supplies will be provided. Please stay after services to join Rabbi Axelrod for a compelling conversation in the social hall. For our full schedule of events, for more information or to RSVP, please visit the temple website calendar. Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos, everyone. Yeah, don't forget, no matter how long the service is, stay after. We got a great oneg, but we're going to have a conversation about something no one knows anything about, right? Gaza and Israel. No one has an opinion here, do you? All right, well, we're going to share all of our opinions in 30 minutes or less, right after services, after we have a little bit to eat. But speaking of food and oneg, I'm starting to get hungry.
What are you going to have for dinner tomorrow night?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's going to get chilly again,
How about soup?
Soup sounds good.
Oh.
For the Super Bowl?
You mean this?
Yes.
Now, a lot of you are going, well, this starts, 4 to whatever it is, 5, 6. It's sold out, like within a half hour. So they have a lot more people making soup, but the soup does go quick.
And Jeremy's usually goes first. So if you want that one, you have to come at 4.
The gauntlet has been laid down.
He doesn't want to make more. He likes that he sells out.
That's right. So he makes 8 ounces. Is that it? He cheats.
Our crock pot is small.
Anyway, how many of you have been to the Super Bowl? S-O-U-P. Raise your hands. Is it pretty good? Is it tasty? Yeah. So if you've not been to it, it's a fundraising event for the Mensch Club. All the money gets sent back to the temple to do good mitzvahs, and we just sell soup on the Saturday before the Super Bowl. Therefore, it's called the Super Bowl. And then we mentioned about a compelling conversation. Well, there is an actual branded compelling conversation on March 7th, where I and a special guest, Yardena Schwartz, who is being brought here by Greg Brown of UNLV. She's a professor, and she's written a really interesting book, perhaps a little controversial given the tempo of the times, about the 1929 massacre in Palestine that initiated the Arab-Israeli conflict. So this is going to be a really interesting conversation. I have not read her book yet, but by the time we have it, I'll be very familiar with it. March 7th, so put that down. And you mentioned Tu B'Shvat, but isn't there another holiday you're preparing for?
Yes. So 2 days after this compelling conversation, on March 9th, our kids have been putting together a wicked Purim spiel, and it is adorable. And they've been working really, really hard. We even have one of our stars right here. So Marietta, what is your role? She is King Ahasuerus. So
Gesundheit.
You should definitely plan. I think it's around 10 o'clock before the Purim Carnival on March 9th. So please come and support our students.
All right, that's a lot of information. They got it all right here. And a few weeks ago, we began, I thought, a nice tradition, which is little Jewish calisthenics. We're all going to arise, and you're going to find someone you do not know or don't know well, no one that you came with, and make yourself a new friend. Wish them good Shabbos. So everyone stand up, make your way around the sanctuary, and here we go.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. As we bring in the light of Shabbat, we call forward our candle lighters, Iris Torgman and Lisa Alberts, to light our Shabbat candles. As a reminder, we continue to light 3 Shabbat candles, one for the hostages who have no way of lighting their Shabbat candles. We pray, may they be able to light those candles next Shabbat. Yai lai 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 Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. Lehad likner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav etzivanu. Lehad likner, lehad likner, lehad likner shel Shabbat. Lehad likner shel Shabbat. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai. The feminine presence is a pivotal part of the Shabbat service. Tonight, we celebrate the women who shaped our Jewish music. Each prayer song written by a woman. Every single prayer tonight, the melody composed by a woman. Shabbat cannot exist without it. 50 years ago, in 1975, when Barbara Ostfeld became the first female cantor, she broke the glass ceiling. She was our first. While some women served as prayer leaders, called zogarin, and recorded chazanut, none were officially ordained as clergy. Following the 1972 ordination of Sally Presand, the first female rabbi, the Reform movement began considering women's ordination as cantors. After cantor Barbara Ostfeld's ordination, more women entered the cantorate, transforming Jewish music. Before women could have an influence on Jewish music, our next prayer, Lecha Dodi, was the feminine presence in prayer. Lecha Dodi personifies Shabbat as a bride, embracing the divine feminine in Jewish tradition. This parallels the emergence of women in the cantorate who bring their voices into the sacred space of Jewish prayer, embodying a long overdue recognition of the feminine in Jewish liturgical leadership. Just as Lecha Dodi calls on the community to welcome the Shekhinah, God's feminine presence, and transform time into holiness. Women in the cantorate have transformed Jewish worship, infusing it with new energy, perspectives, and musical interpretations. Our presence reshapes the sound and experience of Jewish prayer, much like the way the Shabbat bride reshapes the spiritual atmosphere of Shabbat. Let us welcome the Shabbat bride on page 138, Lecha Dodi. Yalla la la lecha dodi, yalla lai likrat kala, yalla pnei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Whoa, yalla la la lecha dodi, yalla la likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Whoa, yalla la la lecha dodi, yalla la likrat kala, yalla Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva orech kumi ori. Uri, uri, shir daberi, kavod Adonai, alayich nigla. Okay, now you know it. Whoa, yalalala lecha dodi, yalalai likrat kala, yalalai pnei Shabbat, pnei Shabbat nekabela. We rise to greet our Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvetzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Whoa, yalalai lecha dodi, yalalai likrat kala, yalalai pnei Shabbat, pnei Shabbat nekabela. That melody, one of my new favorite lechadodis, was written by cantor Becky Mann. And Bring in the Light before that, Alana Jagoda K. And the Hine Matov before that, Alana Arian. And this Baruchu is by cantor Rochelle Nelson. 146. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed, Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai.
149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? For this is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Baruch atah Adonai hamari v'ravim.
Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. For day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Ve'avatecha al tasir mimenu leolamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malechuto Leolam, Leolam Vaed. Please be seated. And thou shalt love Adonai thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in thy heart, shall be in thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou risest up, and when thou liest down, and when thou liest down, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes, and thou shalt write them on the doorpost of thy house, and upon thy gates, and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God. Adonai Elohechem emet. That Shema Ve'ahavta was written by Debbie Friedman, and we will honor her especially tonight on the 15th Yortzeit. This particular Shabbat is dedicated to Shirat Hayam, the part of our Torah that tells the song of the sea, when Moses led the people to freedom by crossing the Reed Sea. Our beautiful Torah physically changes to a font that looks like the waters of the sea. The melody changes to a unique tune that reminds me of rocking back and forth while floating on the ocean. What happens next is because of our matriarch Miriam, who celebrates, timbrel in her hand, leading the people in ruckus song and dance after experiencing redemption. She reminds us that faith and action go hand in hand. She is the voice we follow in that moment, She is the one who reminds us not only to experience the moment, but celebrate it. I share this special melody of Shirat Hayam with you, the way it is chanted in the Torah. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Eddie, do you think we should do Miriam's song? Okay. It feels appropriate in this moment. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. When Miriam stood up on the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. Let's pick up the pace. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance all night. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. That was a good effort on rhythm.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
That was for everybody, actually.
That's right.
Maybe we should have like a rhythm
And we
class
We
here.
forgot that little dun-dun part.
I needed a timbrel. Okay.
I bought you a timbrel.
I have a bunch in my
I
office.
got you a timbrel. 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will.
Page 160, another Cantor Becky Man hit. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomereinu l'chaim Ufros aleinu Sukat shlomecha Ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot Shlomecha, Amen. When I lay my head down tonight, beneath your shelter of everlasting light, God, may I wake to a world renewed, filled with love and gratitude, filled with love and gratitude. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot Shlomecha, ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot Shlomecha, Amen. Now I have to ask you, Eddie, was it better playing in that key? Doesn't matter to you? Okay. So, funny story. Becky texted me this week a new copy of this Hashkivenu, which we've done here for a long time. Because when she wrote it, she's on guitar, so she's not really thinking about the key signatures, which if you're a musician and you're a pianist and you're this person who's singing hands you a piece of music that has 7 sharps on it, you're like, seriously? So she's like, oh, I just arranged it and I brought it down to C, which is the easiest one to play in. So you're like, thank you. After 8 years, it's now in C. I have to say, as the singer, I actually really liked it as half step up. So we'll see where it goes. But I appreciate that she thought about that for us. If that made no sense to you, you're not a musician, you could just appreciate the music. For so long, we move into the Amidah with Adonai Sifatai Tiftach as our pre-prayer, and it's often quite overlooked. While it's just one line, Adonai, open my lips so that my mouth may declare your praise, it is arguably as important as the whole Amidah itself. The phrasing of Adonai Sifatai Tiftach evokes the process of something sacred emerging, just as a midwife facilitates birth. God is asked to open the lips, bringing forward words of praise. In this way, the prayer can seem as a metaphor for the feminine act of giving life, with the spoken words as the creation being brought into the world. Unlike forceful proclamations of divine might, this prayer acknowledges human vulnerability and seeks strength in divine support. This echoes the way feminine strength in Jewish tradition is often portrayed, not as domination, but as persistence, faith, and quiet resilience. When cantor Natalie Young wrote this piece, I'm not sure she knew what an impact it would have on our communities. It replaced the traditional chant and became the Friedman Misha Berach of its time. When we chant it 3 times, each time adding harmony. It is preparatory for the following Amidah prayers, yes, but it is also an evolving and growing piece of melody that blossoms into a symphony of voices. From it, our sacred song emerges. From Natalie's gentle melody, we evoke our intentions in this space and time. We rise for the Amidah on page 164 through 181. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Adonai שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך ופי יגיד תהילתך אדוני שפתי תפתח אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך ופי יגיד תהילתך אדוני שפתי תפתח אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך ופי יגיד תפילתך ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מחלקל חיים בחסד מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסירים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מחמך בגבורות ומדום לך מלך במית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל HaKadosh. We continue in our own private, personal prayers. We can use the words on the right or the left side of the page or the words within our hearts. We conclude on pages 180, 181, and when you have completed your prayers, please be seated. of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you, oh my rock, and my Redeemer.
We turn to our Misha Berach prayer. Again, it was a female composer, Debbie Friedman, that introduced the modern Misha Berach to Reformed congregations, and it spread to conservative congregations as well. She, through her music, touched upon a chord of spirituality that apparently everyone was hungry for and didn't realize it. We have so many people that we care about who are ill or struggle with matters of the heart or addiction, maybe depression. It's all different kinds of things that day to day impact us. And when we say this Misha Berach, and I can visualize Debbie, blessed memory now, she would say, this Misha Berach is for you, and this is for, your loved ones, and this is for us as a community. Each layer of singing this song brought the congregation together and made us realize that even though sometimes we feel alone in our suffering, we're not alone at all. And it's not just that God is with us, it's that somehow when we would sing this Misha Berach, the community reminded you that you are not alone because we stand with you and beside you.
And if you're joining us on the live stream, we invite you now to put the names in the chat of those you are thinking of for healing prayers.
Perez Tzvia Bat Trebel Ulivi, Alan Lossoff, Carol Verwain, Robin Pence, Jennifer Ding, April, Harvey Katz, Fran Fine, Fern Percheski, Sylvia Beller, Logan Knapp and family, Shoshana Ham, Kim Botwin, Ilana Bat Avram Ba'aliyah, Amber Holdorf, John Hutchings, our friends and family in Medinat Yisrael, and all those who live in that region who are suffering. Of course, I always think of my sister Dina. If you'd like to have the name of someone that you care about for the Misha Berach prayer, simply stand and say their name.
The Grau family, Avery Grau, Pamela Henderson. Paula Fernandez, Daniel Hertline, Jim Faso, Muhammad Salah, Misheberach Avotenu Mekor Abracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Well, good Shabbos, everyone. So tonight's sermon is kind of a combination of last week and this week, Parshat Bo and Beshalach. And it's meant to be a sermon that talks about the courage of women in Jewish history. What occurred in Bo and Beshalach continue to inspire us today. But its origins happen to have been with a conversation I had with a woman, a member of our congregation and community. And before you know it, we're getting involved in a discussion about the world. And she said, Rabbi, I don't know, what can we do? This world is so messed up. I'm so distraught, frustrated, angry even. What can we do, Rabbi, about all the evil in the world? I thought for a moment, and without getting into specifics, I realized part of it is she wanted to fetch. Okay, I'm a rabbi, I have a good listening ear, let people fetch without expecting an answer. But when you get into those existential questions of good and evil and what our role is, you can't help but, as a rabbi, understand that we have a religious perspective on that matter. That's kind of our lane as clergy. And so I thought for a moment, and without getting too specific, I said, start small. Fix what you can fix, build what you can build, and do what you can do. Here she was looking at the whole world, all the continents, all the peoples, all the problems, and feeling helpless. And yet if she looked in the mirror and she looked at her family, she looked at her street, she looked at her city, I bet you she would see things that need fixing. So why look so far when there's things that need to happen right here in your own life? She said, well, but that's not enough. And I don't know, maybe she didn't want to hear what I had to say. Maybe she'd rather dwell on being frustrated. We've all met people like that. But sometimes when the problems of the world seem overwhelming, when the forces of hatred, violence, and injustice feel unstoppable, we become paralyzed. We think, what's the point? I can't change the world. I give up. And yet Parshat Bo and Parshat Beshalach, last week's and this week's Torah portion, remind us that redemption does not come all at once. It begins with small acts of defiance, small steps of courage. The Exodus story, we remember how it begins with Pharaoh saying, all the boys that are born, we're going to kill them. It begins with death and destruction and a feeling of hopelessness amongst the Israelites. And yet what happens? Someone decides to defy Pharaoh and take that little baby who would become Moses, put him in a basket, and say a little prayer as he drifted down the Nile. But it was women who first pushed back against this evil decree. In Parshat Bo, Pharaoh's heart remains hardened and the plagues reach their climax, but before liberation comes, we see that the true resistance begins much earlier with two midwives, Shifra and Puah, who refused to follow Pharaoh's command to kill the Hebrew baby boys. And their quiet but radical act of defiance saved countless lives. And of course, a woman saved Moses and brought him into the household of Pharaoh to be raised a prince. And in Parashat Beshalach, when the Israelites finally free Egypt, just as we sang Miriam's song, we remember that it was Miriam who ensures that freedom is not just about survival. It is about joy, about faith, about pushing forward. For as the Israelites stand on the far shore of the sea of reeds, Miriam leads them in song and dance. We hear in the song, she danced the whole night long with her timbrel. But it wasn't an afterthought. The Midrash teaches that the women packed their instruments before leaving Egypt because they had faith that redemption would come. That even in the depths of slavery, they believed in a future of freedom. You can't go anywhere without hope. You're not strong unless you have faith. You must be able to visualize a day when you are free, or you will always remain a prisoner. And that's what Miriam gave to our people. The modern day Miriams are like our very own Cantor Hutchings, or as she mentioned, the original Cantor Barbara Ostfeld, who in 1975 became the first female cantor in the Reform movement, and later Cantor Deborah Davis did the same in the conservative movement. Being the first is always tough. It's always tough. And they faced their hurdles of being accepted and allowing each time they sang to be something viewed as a gift and a blessing rather than an affront to tradition. To get people to hear their voices and how they prayed and how they sang and the gifts that they would give rather than saying, oh, I'm not so sure, I like how she looks, and well, look, oh, I can see her ankles, and you may laugh. But I remember when we brought in a female cantor to my home congregation, and everyone talked about her appearance and not about her voice. Her name was Dora Krakow, one of the first female cantors. Came to my home and thought it was such an oddity. But now, we wouldn't think anything different. And so, it's tough being the first, but we long for days when we no longer remember whether it was the first or the 5th or the 50th. But 50 years has gone by, and so much has changed for the better. Well, there's another anniversary that I was going to talk about last week, but we had a different theme, and that had to do with something much more serious, and that was now it's 80 years since Auschwitz. That's what we observed also in January. 80 years since the Shoah. And we have vowed never again, but anti-Semitism is still with us. Some days it feels as if we are heading in the wrong direction. We witness hatred rising once more. We see swastikas defacing synagogues. We hear ancient lies being repeated in new ways. We see what's going on college campuses, and we can't help but ask ourselves, have we failed? The answer is, it's in how we respond. We cannot control the hearts of others, but we can push back against darkness in the same way our ancestors did, through small, unwavering acts of moral courage. We can teach our children to be proud of their heritage, to not be afraid to stand tall against injustice, even when it feels like a whisper against a storm. We're familiar with that Talmudic saying, whoever saves one life, it's as if they have saved an entire world. Well, 80 years ago, some chose to look away. Others chose to act. And because of them, there are generations alive today who bear witness. We are here because of those women, because of those men, even because of some children who pushed back and said, there has to be a different way. There has to be a different way. One of my favorite stories is about a child who walks along a beach littered with thousands of stranded starfish. One by one, the little child picks them up and throws them back into the ocean, and an older gentleman walks up and says, "Little girl, what are you doing? You can't save them all. What difference does it make?" And she picks up another starfish, tosses it into the waves, looks at him and says, "Well, it makes a difference to that starfish." Sometimes we think the world demands grand solutions, but Judaism teaches us small acts of goodness, one mitzvah at a time, are what sustains the world. Pharaoh did not relent easily. The Israelites did not gain their freedom overnight. But every act of defiance against tyranny, every refusal to surrender to despair, became a step towards redemption. The tradition says that if someone says, "The Messiah is coming," you don't pack your bags, you plant a tree. We don't wait for someone to come and save us. We don't even follow someone who says, "I'm the Messiah and I'm going to solve all your problems." We take a concrete act, such as planting a tree, that won't even bear fruit necessarily in our lifetime or provide shade. And with that expression of courage and hope and defiance, we make a statement that brings to us our freedom. The Israelites stood before the Sea of Re in Parshat Beshalach. At first, they were paralyzed by fear. Moses parts the water, and you would think they would all go forward. But tradition says that they were too paralyzed by their fear, and instead of going forward, they were frozen, until one person, Nachshon ben Adimadab, stepped forward into the water. He took the first brave steps before the sea split. And it reminds us that redemption requires action. And sometimes we must be the first to step forward, even when the way ahead is uncertain. And so it is today. The forces of hatred, of anti-Semitism, of injustice, they won't disappear on their own. And so I agree with the person I had lunch with. Oh my God, there's so much wrong with the world. But I also think there's a lot that's right. And there's a lot that we can do. Even if we just start small. And with that simple act, whatever it might be, helping our neighbor, helping our neighborhood, helping our city, helping ourselves, we make a difference that matters. Because in the end, life does not have to end with hate or ashes or evil. We choose how the story continues. Shabbat Shalom.
I'll be the light for justice. I'll be the light for love. I'll be the light shining in the dark. Even when we've seen enough, I'm gonna wake up every day and be the light where I stand, Reach out my hand, I'll be the light. I'll be the light of justice. I'll be the light for justice. I'll be the light for justice. I'll be the light for love.
We rise for the adoration.
Please rise on page 586. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated.
If you're joining us on the live stream, we invite you now to submit the names of those you are thinking of for Kaddish prayers, whether it's a recent death, you're observing Shloshim or Shana, or it is a Yortzeit. We invite you to put those names in the chat at this time.
We think of Nevenka Banovic, Neda Gandhi, Charlie Roberts, Stephen Unger, Marcy Haber, Jordan Juka, Maxine Schoenwald, Rose Levenberg, Raymond Marvin Ackerman, Charles Cohen, Ann Witt, Evelyn Simon, Barry Linden, Pete McConey, Beverly Frankel, Brett Howard Goldstein, Phil Levinson, Richard Waxler, Michael Meyerhoff, William Rosenthal, Thelma Rosad, Harry Schwartz, Ann Schwartz, Burton Slutsky, Abe Supe, David Borochoff, Gary Naftali, Max Cherninsky, Don Unger, William Shandelman, Sarah Lee Rudnick, Samuel Emmer, William Falvey, Abe Tobiansky, Alan Miller, Adriana Mendez de Meos. If you'd like to say the name of a loved one who was not mentioned for Kaddish or Yortzeit, please stand and say their name.
Ronald Epps, your sister wrote Marjorie Axelrod. Amanda Lee.
We rise to recite Kaddish.
Page 598.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'yalmad divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeda chol beit Yisrael v'agalav izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam omei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekusha barichu leila min kol birchata v'shirata Tush bechata v'nechemata, damiram bialma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlom rabba min shamai v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, amen. Please be seated. So in a few moments, our service will come to a close after we do Kiddush and Motzi. We want to thank Cantor and Eddie and our Shamashim and Michelle. congregant of the year here. You can wish her Mazel Tov again, right? You got so many fans here. You do. That's earned. And Rabbi Olshine, there she is. You want to stand for a moment? Put in a plug for one of your adult ed classes that are so great.
The last Thursday in February, we will have a class called Jewish Views on How to Argue Jewishly. 7 o'clock online, so right in your pajamas if you want. We don't make you turn your screen on. But there's about an hour and 15 minutes of fun conversation.
I understand the committee took 5 hours to decide on the title and the time, right? That's great. Looking forward to that class. We'll go into the oneg, and then in about 10 minutes, I'll encourage you to come to the other half of the social hall, and we'll just get started right away. And if you don't want to come, you can just stay in the oneg, so it'll be your choice. All right.
All right, and I've just been thinking about the oddity that you said was a female cantor in your house, and how in my house, when I told Emmett that he was just shy of 3 years old, and I told him that I was going to be a rabbi, and I was starting school, and he started crying, and he was like, I don't want you to have a beard.
From the mouth
I
of
had
babes.
to explain. But then the story continues. So just a few weeks ago, he said, Mommy, who's the new cantor going to be now? Because he's now wrapped his head around this whole rabbi thing. And he said, it can't be rabbi, right? And I was like, why do you say that? And he was like, he's a boy. So it's still like now it's like 50 years later, and they can't. It's just, it can't wrap your head around it.
Because he can't sing, but
No,
I
he
guess
didn't say
that's not a
that.
requirement
No,
for the job
'cause you're a
anymore, or
boy.
what? All right.
Okay, so we want to invite Beth and Ken to the bima for our Kiddush and Motzi.
All right, some of the kids in religious school, come on up. Don't be bashful.
It's juice. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen.
Baruch atah Eloheinu hamotzi min haaretz. Amen.
We're going to close with a prayer for peace. Oseh Shalom, the Israeli Nava Tehillah version. Oseh Shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Shabbat Shalom.